All right. Welcome to John's Dungeon Corner. Here we are at the Collective on a Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. And today's topic. Oh, wait. Before we go into today's topic, remember last week I promised you that I would create an email that you could use to send me questions for at the end of each show for me to talk about. So I did. So right down here, I wrote it, John's DC 2021 at gmail.com. So I'm going to talk to the guys here and see if we can get it up on the website under the show title or something, the little corner. And maybe I can get a corner to place my Dungeon Corners email at. All right. Anyway, so with that being said, today's topic, we're going to talk about monsters, all things monsters. Well, we'll probably get off on track and talk about something else, but talk about monsters. Here's a nice little Displacer Beast t-shirt today. They're displaced, so you probably can't see it very well, but it's a fun shirt to wear when you're the dungeon master. I always think that sometimes the attire, the environment, the atmosphere can help too when you're DMing. But we'll get into that some other time, atmosphere and all that good stuff. Today, we're talking about monsters. And of course, what discussion about monsters would be complete without the monster manual? All right, inside of it, of course, we've gone over it, but I'm going to show you. There's a nice beholder, one of my favorite monsters on there. And inside, of course, we go through alphabetically from A through Z, every monster, and some demons, and the dragons. Hold on. There we go. And the dragons, of course, right? Lots of dragons, all kinds of dragons. There's metallic dragons. There are chromatic dragons. For those of you, chromatic means color. Here's an Eden and a fairy dragon that you could use for a familiar. And, of course, we've got the deep knowns, the Gorgon, which is not a minotaur, it's an actual Gorgon, the golems, it goes on and on into the undead and water species like the Kutao, and we got were-tigers and werewolves and were-bears, oh my. But so there's a lot of monsters in there, but the question really comes down to, as a dungeon master or even as a player, yes, the beholder of my life, my love of my life. That's my wife. Get it? The beholder. Yes. We love beholders. And of course, I'm wearing my Displacer Beast shirt. But anyway, so talking about the monsters. So we're creating we're going to create an adventure, right? And we have to know what level characters we're creating the adventure for. Then, once we determine that, we have to, how many adventures are we going to have? And the neat thing about Dungeons and Dragons is that you can, with the help of the accessories that we're going to go through, create something and it's all at your fingertips. I mean, even on the computer, you'll see me. I'll have definitely. That's why I'm taking that lyric class. I'd be a better poet. But no, so we're going to have things at our finger. We can have a laptop or our computer there, which I use all the time, and I make notes in there about the monsters. And sometimes unique monsters or something I want to beef up, I'll make special notes about. I'll put them in, know what room they're going to be in and that kind of thing, what they're going to be doing. Hey, Max, how are you? Good to see you on. So we're talking about monsters today. Oh, and since you guys just came on, here's my new email just for the Dungeon Corner. It's johnsdc2021 at gmail.com. I put it right there if you can't see it, just so you know, but there it is. Okay, so monsters. We gotta tell them to the party, because too strong, you may not kill them, but you're gonna beat them down, and they really don't have a good chance of finishing their mission. Too easy, and it's kind of like, well, gee, that was easy. Then they get in their head, and let me tell you, this is something important, especially for beginning dungeon masters. Okay, when you create an adventure, you might want to tend to make it survivable. But that sometimes equates into easy, and you never want to make an easy adventure. And I'll tell you why. New characters, especially those who have never played before, they go through the goblins and chop, they kill them, and oh, wow, that was easy. And then from then on, if you reinforce it again with a second battle that's easy, then they're going to think that that's the way it is. When they really run into something that's nasty, they're going to go, oh, whoa, time out. They're not going to be ready for it. So you got to have this fine balance. And sometimes it can skew one way or the other, because the neat thing is, on a mission, on an adventure, they're going to run into a lot of things. And you can always, you can use just goblins. In fact, speaking of goblins, now we're going to talk about that later. And you can start with goblins. Oh, thank you, Danny. Yep, it's a displacer beast, one of my favorites. So you put the goblins out there, and if you decide I'm gonna just run the goblins and that's it, that's also because you can beef up your goblins. You can start out with just the guards, the sentinels, the sentries out at front of the cave, and goblins. Let me tell you, looking on this here real quick, a goblin. Let me put on my eyes because I can't see. I can't see. No, here we go. A goblin is a 1/4 challenge rating. It's not even a 1, it's a quarter. So it takes 4 of these guys to make up 1 challenge rating, okay? So that's why you never see goblins in little attacking you one-on-one. So anyway, so with that, not D-Andy, but D-N-D. Yes, Rod. How you doing, Rod? Welcome to the show. So you want to balance things out. And if you want to use, like I said, goblins, you can beef them up as you go. There's an accessory. There's another monster manual out that I got on, what is it? The Dungeon Masters Guild, the DMs Guild. It's gorgeous. And I didn't bring it today. I had set it aside, but I rushed off and left it. And it has these new descriptions of the goblins, and it takes you into the goblin shaman and the what is it, the dark blade, and just a whole bunch of different, the goblin chief and the goblin boss, and there's just so many. And the same thing with kobolds and orcs, which are my favorites. I've always said that I love those creatures. Hey, Jason. Yes, goblins, orcs, and dragons. Oh my. Oh, that's a good staging. See, goblins. And then you have the orcs. I think orcs start at like 1 challenge rating, go up from there. And then, of course, dragons, well, they're at the top of the food chain. So you can just guess where they're at. Okay, so I set up my adventure. I decide, okay, I've got 5 players. I am going to say their first. Let's say you have a nice little mixed group of first and second level. I've seen this done. Sometimes DMs will let the more experienced player start with a second level character, so you can kind of beef up the monsters a little bit when they first go out. That's okay to do. I rarely do it, but in a one shot, I might. In a campaign, I definitely don't. Everybody starts out at first level. So I decided to create my monsters. And in fact, here go 2 of my favorite monsters, kobolds. And now I'm going to talk about the cards and goblins. Okay. The cards are really neat. They have pictures on the front of them. I know you can't see them very well, but there they are. Cobalt, goblin. And then when you flip them around, they have all the essential. I can't really see it, unfortunately. Let me bring it up to the camera. I'm going to come around the table and see if I can put it in front of the camera so you can kind of see it. Look at that, okay? So there goes the goblin. Let me see if I tilt it back a little enough forward. But there's the goblin, and you can there's no easy way to do it. That's something we're working on. But so I kind of gave you an idea what's on the back, but it has its name. It'll tell you it's a small humanoid goblinoid, and it's neutral evil. Then it goes into its armor class, and I'm just going to use the goblin. It'll tell you armor class is 15, leather armor shield. Its hit points, and the first number they give you is like an average. So it uses 2d6 for its hit points, and it says that its average is 7. Okay. Then it tells you its speed that it travels, 30 feet. Its strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. All monsters pretty much have the same stat blocks or ability scores as the players. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Then it talks about its skills. Just like players have, they have skills. So a goblin skill is a stealth +6. That means that whenever they're trying to be stealthy, quiet, hide, sneak around, you roll a d20 and you add that 6, just like with players. Just like players have stealth. Then it has senses. It has dark vision, 60 feet. That's pretty good. And they have a passive perception of 9. Not so good. They speak their languages, common and goblin. Then they have a unique ability, and it's called Nimble Escape. The goblin can take the disengage or hide action as a bonus on each of its turns. What does that mean? Okay, so here we go. A goblin attacks the fighter. Boom, hits him. Well, now it uses a bonus action to disengage. Okay, there's no attack of opportunity because he's disengaging. It's their special ability, and they get it as a bonus action. Or they can hide. They can run behind the crates and barrels and hide back there. Okay, actions. So here it attacks with a scimitar at +4, 5 feet. It does 1d6 +2 slashing damage. Or it can use a short bow +4 range, 80 and 320 feet, up to 320. It does 1d6 +2 piercing damage. So that's all the information that I need with this creature to run an encounter as a dungeon master. Now, what I do with him, that's up to me. But I have all the information on these cards. It goes the same with the Cobalt. Here goes a Goblin boss that I was talking about, an Orc. Here's the Orc. In fact, okay, so here we go. Going from small to large, the challenge rating for a Goblin is 1/4, 50 experience. Oh, excuse me. The Cobalt is a challenge rating of 1/8, which is only 25 experience. So it takes 8 Cobalts to get one challenge rating out. And then we have the Orc, who a base Orc is a challenge rating of 1/2 and 100 experience points. That's why, sometimes my players look at me, wow, we fought a lot of creatures, but we didn't go up a level. Well, that's the way it is. I mean, you could technically fight, let's say 20 of these, and you would get 500 experience, and then you would divide that out among however many players are. That's not a lot of experience per character. Hello, William. How are you? Good to see you. It's good seeing you again. Once again, I like to always say this. William Quinnan is the creator of 47 Tales and the Glenfallow series, which is really, really neat. Dungeon Masters, if you get a chance, get your hands on those. It's a really nice. You can start at first level, just take them through. Gorgeous map, gorgeous artwork, a lot of information, and it's very well staged. The challenges in there are really well staged, which is what we're kind of talking about today. So these cards, they come in different sets. This is the 0 through 5th level, or excuse me, the 0 through 5 challenge rating, because challenge ratings. Then you have the monster cards that come challenge rating 6 through 16. Then there's another one, which I haven't gotten yet. I'm not gonna lie, I have these two. Is the epic monster levels. You also have the newer two that came out, Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkinen's Tome of Foes. And it's the same thing, more cards, different creatures, more challenge ratings. And it's nice to have that, because every once in a while, you might want to do a little one shot, something little side adventure. So you can literally just pull together. Let's say I want to put in, I'm gonna put in the Kobolds, and they're being run by, or let's use the Orcs. I have an Orc who happen to have an Orog as a bodyguard there, and then an Orc chieftain, whatever it is you want to do. Or I could take all these monsters and say, okay, the Goblin boss is so strong that he has an Orc, let's see, 4 Goblins, 8 Kobolds, and an Orog. And perhaps a phoenix in a pear tree. No, just kidding. And he's going to raid the village with it. And the adventurers happen to be at the tavern. Ta-da! There's a little one-shot adventure. You got a group of bandits made up of goblinoids and such, or humanoids and goblinoids coming out in there to kind of ransack the town or the village. And there you have it. Oh, Danny says, I believe William has the next issue of 47 Tales going on Kickstarter in October. Can we confirm or deny that, William? All right. So that's the neat thing about monsters. Now, using them in your campaign, that's completely up to you. I have a lot of different campaign settings or adventures within my campaign setting, and I use the Kobolds. The Kobolds are usually trying to start a dragon cult or some kind of something associated with dragons. That's a good way to go there. The Goblins, the Goblins, they're raiding, they're kidnapping people, they're stealing people's farm animals, that kind of thing, or raiding a village, maybe. The Orc and the Orog, they're probably conspiring. Oh, and by the way, an Orog is an half Orc, half Ogre, in case you're wondering. That's how they came up with the concept of Orog. He's very strong. In fact, in comparison, the Orog has a +4 strength, a +4 constitution. So that he's pretty strong. He does he has a multi-attack. He has a great axe, which does 1d4 +4 slashing damage. And if he decides to throw a javelin at you, it's a 1d6 +4. So they're pretty mean. They're pretty tough guys there. And their armor class is pretty nasty, and so are their hit points. They're a 5d8 creature. Now here's funny, 5d8. But the challenge rating on him, the challenge is only a 2. Oh, and one thing I forgot to tell you guys. So, Dungeon Masters, whenever you sit there and you use these cards, if you wanted to go, let's say you wanted more information, maybe you're putting together a story. How did this Orc come to be? And the players want to know, and they do an history check or an investigation, any kind of role that you allow them to kind of find out more about the Orcs. It tells you right at the bottom, Monster Manual, page 247. So it tells you exactly where to go in the Monster Manual to find out all the write-up on the creature. Okay. And this is what an Orc looks like. I don't know if you can get a good picture of that. We're going to have to get a camera for the table because I'm not going to go back around there. So that's a little bit about those monster cards. And they're all designed the same way. It doesn't matter. Here's a werewolf. Here's a werewolf. This is a much bigger card because there's a lot more information about a werewolf. And as you can see, the werewolf has so much information, we had to put it on two sides. That's a lot of stuff. Same thing with the were-tiger. That's a were-tiger. The art, which, you know, I've always loved. I love art. I mean, visual representation is something that makes it come to life more in your mind. It brings it to life. And I love that. And that's what D&D is about. So that's what the cards kind of help the Dungeon Master. You can always show the picture to the players so they have an idea what they're fighting. If you have a miniature, that just takes it one step further. And when you put all that together, it comes out to be a really good game. Now, behind me, and I always talk about these when I talk about Dungeon Mastering, the starter set and the essentials kit. You know, I've opened those up. I've shown you what they're like. But I always love to bring them up because there's so much good information in there. And the challenges that the players face as they progress through the story, depending on how far you want to take it, are very well balanced. And I think that in and of itself merits their mention anytime we talk about monsters or campaigns or anything like that. It's not easy. Any Dungeon Master who's actually run a campaign will tell you it's not easy to keep a balance. And it's not just about the monsters. I mean, there's traps, but you know, who set the trap? It didn't just appear there. Well, maybe. You never know. This is a world of magic, right? But for the most part, was it a Cobalt? Is it a Cobalt type trap? Is it a Dwarven? Is it a Gnomish trap? You know, are we going into a library? It's just really, really neat. The way the challenge rating system is set up in Dungeons and Dragons now, and the way these cards help out so much. So back to here. Now over here, I have the Epic Encounters, Shrine of the Cobalt Queen, and over here is the Hall of the Orc King. Now, other than them being gorgeous, I've shown you these also with the miniatures. They all come. This one comes with, I think, 20 miniatures. Let's see. Oh yeah, 20 miniatures. A game mat, an adventure book, the monster stats, and tips and tricks for building tension and excitement. So these are really nice too. And if you're a Dungeon Master and you're trying to keep a balanced game, these boxes, they've made them to where they're already pre-made to open up and play. All you need is the players. The miniatures are gorgeous, even if you just left them the way they are. Like I said, the orcs are really cool because they're riding polar bears. Orcs riding polar bears. Who'd have thunk it? But I love it. I'm going to paint those, by the way. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So there's that. I wanted to say something about monsters. All right, so we're gonna build a camp. Once again, let's go back to that setting that I was talking about with the Goblin boss and the Kobolds and the Orog. You know, so we want to spice this up a little bit. Other than Goblin boss, which is actually a challenge rating of 1. Okay, he's actually a full challenge rating because he's a little stronger than them. He has certain abilities, and these challenge ratings don't have to do always with just their physical abilities or how much damage they can do. It has a lot to their actions that they can take. Like there's a reaction that the Goblin boss can take that's really neat. And it's this: redirect attack. When a creature the Goblin can see targets it with an attack, the Goblin chooses another Goblin within 5 feet of it. The 2 Goblins swap places and the chosen Goblin becomes the target instead. So if there's a Goblin boss, and of course he's always got a couple henchmen around, whether his lieutenants or just henchmen, and you go to attack the Goblin boss, all of a sudden he goes, yeah, you know, I'm gonna redirect this attack and I'm gonna switch places with my minion. So now all of a sudden you're attacking the Goblin, and the Goblin boss is now free to do whatever, disengage. And that's why sometimes you'll see the leaders that you want to kill so bad, and you're like, how do you get away? They have these neat abilities. Now I'm kind of giving away nothing secret, because once you run into a goblin boss, you know it's going to happen. It'll happen. At least now you kind of have an idea, but he's not the only one. That's why I like the goblins. And you can see how frustrated you can frustrate your players. Yeah, they killed, they went through and I killed the guards at the front, and now we're in here and we're fighting these other goblins. And oh my gosh, the goblin rogue just shanked one of my guys. He's down, so now we got to heal him. And then the goblin boss gets away. And you're like, what? It's happened to me. It'll happen to you. It's part of the D&D game, but it's a lot of fun. Just like you, and this is something we were talking about, the different, what is it called? What do you call it? The different types of the different, oh my gosh, I can't remember the word he said. It was so cool too. But anyway, incarnations of Dungeons and Dragons, where it was, first and second, then third, 3.5, and then 4. Now we're in 5. Somebody asked me, do I think a 6th edition is coming out? I don't really see a reason for it. I can't tell you, but I don't see a reason, because this is a great melding, I think, of the beginning of Dungeons and Dragons and where it's going. It took the good things of everything, I think, and kind of made them simpler and easier to teach a new player, and for a new dungeon master to just step in and say, hey, I like to run a game. Literally a new player could just pick up the starter box, read it, and with the information there's already pre-made characters, and they can run a game. And I love that. And everything that's come out, especially these monster cards, because now I can have these monster cards in front of me just like this. And regardless of whether I have 1 Cobalt or I have 100 Cobalts, here's my Cobalt card, and I have everything I need right there. And I don't need to write down a lot of paper. I mean, an average of 5 hit points. I can sit there, and I'll tell you what I do with my game. And like I said, the neat thing is that, once again, the game is a guideline. It's just guidelines. You can either use the rules just as they are, or you can alter them a little bit to fit your needs. And what I do with my characters is, when they start off, it says give them full hit points. I give them the full hit points plus the Constitution bonus. But I allow them to always max out their hit points. Always, they max out their hit points. And why do I do that? Well, it's kind of like a two-way street. It's like a double-edged sword. They now have their maximum hit points available to them, and lets them live longer, and I can send much more powerful creatures after them. Anyway, I do. Hey, you got to have fun as a dungeon master. You're basically just a player running a game for other players. Yeah, no, it's not quite like that, but it's a lot. That's why I view it. It's a lot of fun, and you can have fun with it. So that's what I do. That's something that I do. But sometimes with some of the monsters, like, let's say my Orog. Okay, he's my big guy. So everybody else, and I sometimes use the averages. Sometimes I'll just roll. I'll take 2d8, roll them, add 6, and that's what he has. And then sometimes with my Orog, I would probably max his hit points out, because I know that hey, Antonio, how are you? That's my son, Antonio, just came on. I know that among the characters, they're going to gang up on the big guy. And it's usually going to be, oh, thank you, Cobalt. I appreciate that. Oh, Tony? Your name's Tony? I'm John. Oh, you must be talking to Antonio, I think. But anyway, yeah, so the Orog, I would max out his hit points, because why do I do that? Because, every once in a while, fighters just got to fight. Hey, Sarah, how are you? There's my daughter-in-law out in St. Thomas joining us, and you just got to beat something up. So I put the one monster out there for the guys who and girls, because our adventuring party is pretty well split right down the line, 50-50. And it's neat because they just want to go out there and beat something. Every once in a while, you just got to be able to beat something up, And so I put it out there for that reason. And plus, the Orog dishes out a little bit of damage. So, it's like, okay, we can't just go running up to them, but hey, maybe we will. So it's fun. And you balance the game like that. And you put traps out for your rogues that were set by the Cobalt. There is a Cobalt Trap Master, by the way. That's actually a character class, or a racial class, or a character class for the Cobalts. The Goblin, now you want to do a little bit of something else, and you have a fighter who's really hard to hit, and unless you have something like an Orog, he's really not even getting hit, because it kind of becomes, oh, great, I can march into this group of goblins. They might hit me, maybe not. But it changes when all of a sudden you have a goblin shaman out there. Oops. Or maybe a goblin, a Cobalt, what do they call them? Scalecaster. Or perhaps an Orc Warlock. Uh-oh. Now you got nasty spells coming at you. So all that armor is kind of like, dang. My favorite spell, Magic Missile. It's the staple. Boom, Magic Missile. Here it comes. Bam, bam, bam. And then you get no to hit. Just straight out damage. Just roll your damage. It's an auto hit. What a spell, right? It's always been a staple of almost every magic caster who can cast it. Although, now we have a really neat spell. I think it's the Warlock. Yeah, the Warlock. Witch Bolt. Oh, man, look that one up. All you Warlocks. That's a fun spell, too. But remember, I always say, if the players can have it, more than likely so can the monsters. Maybe not at first level. Maybe at first level. You never know. Depends on the size of the group, right? The neat thing about the campaign that I'm running is that I have about 9 or 10 players. So the sky is the limit. And they're a very diversified crowd, too. They've got a paladin. They got warriors. They got 2 clerics, a sorcerer, a bard, a rogue, a druid. It's a really neat, a monk. So they've got a diversity in their party that they can pretty much handle just about everything. So yeah, with 9 or 10 players, I have to kind of really think about challenging them in that kind of thing. But that's half the fun. I mean, if it was easy, anybody could do it. And actually, it is easy enough that everybody can do it. But I like to add more depth. Have you heard of the Authors and Dragons podcast? No, I haven't. What's that? Tell me a little bit about it real quick down there. I like to know. Or, hey, since I've got a bunch of new folks on it, listen, I last week I promised you guys I'd have an email, and I do. It's johnsdc2021@gmail.com. It's really cool. Writers playing D&D. Oh, that is neat. That would be really neat. I've actually thought of doing something like that with our group, but I haven't quite got all the mechanics of doing something like that. Yeah, but that's going to be something that I think we're going to look into doing. Yes. Oh, and I want to give a shout out to Matt today at the Collective. He had it not been for him, we wouldn't even had a show. So I want to give him 2 thumbs up. See, 2 thumbs. A left one. Oh, I know it looks right to you, but and a right one. Left, right, left, right. I'm on the air. I'm on the TV outside, and this is really cool. It's progressing really well. Yeah. Well, you know what, Cobalt, if you ever want to play, let me know on a Friday. Right now, Wednesdays are kind of sporadic. I'm in school, and Antonio's sometimes working really far away. But here at the Collective, there are other DMs that are running games every Wednesday night. And every once in a while we try, I've talked to Brendan about it. We're going to have a beginners D&D day, like a Saturday or a Sunday, maybe, where we come in for a couple of hours. No, it's all here at the Collective, in person. We wear masks. I got my mask over there. I just don't have it on because I'm the only one in the studio. Private studio. Oh, Cobalt, you're in the UK. Okay, wow, look at that. We are going international with John's Dungeon Corner. That's crazy. The UK, St. Thomas. Woohoo! Thank you. That's awesome. Well, okay, Kubo, I'm going to tell you, there is a online game that Antonio and I have participating in. No, hold on. Tell you what, send me an email send me your email, and I'll send you the information on an online game that's really, you have to pay to play it, but it's really, really neat. Antonio and I have tried it, and that's why I'm telling you, it's done through Zoom and Roll20. But we'll talk about that. That's not it is Dungeons and Dragons, and that's actually going to be its own session that I'm going to do someday. I got to talk to them first, and I got to talk to Brendan first about all the particulars. But privately, if you send me an email to johnsdc2021@gmail.com, I will send you some of the information. We've tried it, and it's really neat. And you play with people, and they play all day. I've played games at 9 o'clock at night. So yeah, you can pick a game anyway. But yeah, send me that info. But yes, and I'm gonna look into that podcast too because that sounds pretty cool. So building the monsters. Last thing I want to say about it, you got to be careful. Sometimes you'll put a monster, and this is okay, but I want you to be careful, dungeon masters who are just starting out. Don't get too happy-go-lucky and stick a really powerful monster in there because you happen to have the miniature, you think it's really cool. Because you can and will wipe out your characters, okay? And that's something there's a fine line there when it comes to that. It's probably finer than this card right here. And it's that you want to always challenge your players. Yeah, sometimes, you know what? They get through something easily. Hey, that's cool. It happens. Okay. But you don't want to make it so difficult that they just can't go through. It's like a video game that there's no way you're ever going to win. If you do that, your players will revolt. No. They'll just create new characters. Remember that. There's always plenty of pencil and paper. We'll just create new characters. That's that DM side of me. Oh my gosh. That's my twin, the evil side. Anyway, no. But yes, like if they're first level, I would not suggest putting a dragon out there. Although, let me explain something. There is I'm not going to tell you that because in case somebody's going to run that campaign, there is a campaign that actually has a blue dragon in it. Okay, at the beginning you actually run into him, but it's not designed to kill him. But I'm not going to give too much away. And you can do that, and like that, you can do that. You could put something out there that's like, it's here observing its minions, and you just happen to show up, and you're like, and it goes, okay, oh my gosh, there's a red dragon up there, but it's just there observing its minions and seeing how things are progressing, and it's probably you're so beneath it that it's like, it's totally disinterested in you and just flies off. There's nothing you can do to it. It knows there's nothing you can do to it. Does the dragon have blue eyes? See what I did there? I like that. That's good. That's good. Maybe. Maybe one blue, one purple. I don't know. But so the cards are great. Let me get back to this real quick. So, like I said, so you can use the big creatures. I just would not have them attack because I don't think anybody in a first level party would survive the breath weapon of a mature and higher dragon, or even a young adult one. Oh, and yes, dragons are staged out. They start out they go all the way from wormling all the way up to, I think they're venerable dragons now. And boy, yes, I know, blue eyes ultimate dragon. I was waiting, but that would be a white dragon. It would blue eyes, not a red one, my love. But I get it. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Now we're going to bring a little bit of something else in here, which is fun. And here's fun. It's funny she said that. You could have a white dragon with ice blue eyes and pull out the Yu-Gi-Oh card Blue Eyes White Dragon and use it as the representation of that dragon. And maybe it's a unique dragon. It could be the unique dragon in your campaign. So that's funny because there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, you can do just about anything. Use the stats on the stat card, but that's the representation of that particular dragon, So thanks for throwing that out there, love. And you can do that with just about anything. Let me tell you, here's a little secret. Back when Dungeons and Dragons first started, there were no miniatures. I tell people this. So we use pennies, nickels, dimes. Danny was asking me, how come there's not a lot of horses nowadays? This horse, but back then there were none. So we take, you remember the little Indian and cowboys play sets? We take like the horses out of that, and that would be our horses. So whatever, you don't have to have fancy miniatures. You just need a couple people, yourself, and your imagination, and there you go. You got a D&D game. That's probably it for today. I talked a little longer than I wanted to, but that's okay. If you have any questions, once again, I created this just for this. John's DC at 2020, or excuse me, John's DC 2021 at gmail.com. I just created it. It's there. It's open. If you just want to say hi, you got a question, comments, whatever, critique. Have a good day, Cobalt. You be safe. And send me that email, and I'll send you that information. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, and Kubo, it's awesome. He's from the UK. She's from the UK. I'm not quite sure, but they're from the UK, and it's awesome having them here. And Sarah's out in St. Thomas, so this is one of the wonderful things about this kind of thing is you can connect with people all over, and through Dungeons and Dragons. And maybe someday Kubo will come out to Florida and pop into the store and we'll have a session. I'd do that. And I'm sure Antonio would come out and people would come out and play. So you're always welcome. So anyway, without any further ado, may the road always rise up to meet your feet, and may your adventures always end well. Until the next time, meaning next Friday. And if you guys send me a question or a topic, I'll use it. If not, I have one in mind. I will see you next Friday. Uh-oh. Bye-bye. I have to do everything today on my own.